I'd like to call to order the meeting of the regular school committee meeting for Tuesday, February 24th, 2015, the time being 7 o'clock. Please rise for the salute to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we start each meeting reading our Abington Public Schools mission statement. The mission of the Abington Public Schools is to provide all students with relevant, challenging educational experiences to prepare them to be engaged, responsible citizens and members of the global community. Next, we have hearing of visitors. Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on. Under unfinished business, we have the Superintendent of Schools 2013-2014 evaluation. And before we get into too much of that, I thought it'd be helpful if we just sort of had a little recap of how we get to be here with the whole evaluation process. So Superintendent Schaefer set his goals for school year 2013-2014. Then we, as a committee, based on these goals, we come up with our own individual evaluations. The timing of this is based on the release of from the state of the MCAS results, so that's why there's a little bit of a delay there. During our November committee meeting, there was some discussion regarding the process, and Kathy Bailey had generously offered to create sort of a guide to walk the committee members through the process. And the process that we use is based on the recommendation of the state regarding using the rubrics. Correct so far? Then at this point, it was up to each committee member to, they could use this format or not. Individual committee members sent their individual evaluations to me as the chair, as well as a copy to Peter. Then based on these evaluations, I came up with a composite summary, which we as a committee will need to discuss tonight. But even before we get into this discussion, we need to also have a little bit more to add to this. Mr. Haggerty emailed Peter and myself on Saturday requesting copies of each committee member's individual evaluations. Yesterday, I contacted our attorney to run this by him, and based on his opinion, he said that these should not be shared. This was to be held within the members. Then this morning, the attorney called me back to say that upon further research, MASC has since had a different opinion, and they feel that these individual evaluations should be shared. So I think before we take any further steps, we sort of need to talk this all through and see where, as a committee, we're going to go with this. I have here from each committee members, each of their individual evaluations, which, depending on how we decide to proceed, people can or can't share among each other's.
Well, I strongly feel that in order for me to understand how we came up with a composite, I need to see what everybody else arrived at in their evaluation of Peter. Because I see this one-page evaluation is not reflective of anything that I put into the evaluation, and I would like the benefit of seeing what everybody else has as far as input.
I have no problem with the evaluations being shared with every member of the committee. I think it might be just as easy to summarize the evaluations of each person and then attach the comment pages all together. which might, again, require a little further work from our chair.
Yeah, I have no problem in sharing the evaluations, but I do not plan on changing any of the wording in my evaluation. It's not going to change based upon anybody else's reading.
Yeah, I'm not changing a word of mine either. It's just, I don't think this composite, based on what's here, I mean, there's nothing here that addresses anything that I said in my evaluation. I took time and effort to put into it and thought, and recommendations for Peter, and I look at this composite here as 2 paragraphs. And I don't know how we could have 4 school committee members put together their own evaluations, so we come down to 2 paragraphs. It doesn't serve well, it doesn't promote, put Peter in the best light, if you ask me. So I think we need to step back and see what everybody else put together. Put down a paper and pull it together.
I have no problem with that. I know in the process of myself doing evaluations or myself being evaluated, I usually take multiple evaluations. I have multiple evaluations done of me. And basically, in all 30 years of private sector experience that I have, I typically don't see more, I actually see less of a summary than what's actually been provided here. And I don't get to see the individual evaluations.
I mean, I would hate to give more work to Ellen, but I would recommend that, I don't know how many people used the form that I made up for the committee, but to collate responses in terms of unsatisfactory, needs improvement, proficient, or exemplary in each of the areas covered by Peter's goals could be put together, and then all of the comments could be collated and attached to that. And then you'd have a complete picture of how everyone evaluated the superintendent, and nothing would be left out.
So Kathy, I just want to clarify, so you're looking at that table that you generated
Right.
and a composite of the X's?
Right.
Okay, I just want to make sure I
Because in
understood.
the table that I made, it broke out each of the goals that Peter set, and as part of his contract, he's required to set those goals and bring them to us, and that's what we're supposed to be evaluating him on. So I broke those out and marked the indicators within the rubric for superintendents for the state of Massachusetts. So I'm assuming that if people used that they marked whether he was needs improvement, proficient, exemplary in each of those categories. And then there was a space for comments. So what I'm suggesting is that all of the needs improvement, proficient, exemplary, those be added up. So if he was deemed to be proficient in 3 of his indicators, that would put a 3 in that box. And then just attach all of the comments to the back. And that way, nothing would be left out. Whether you evaluated him in terms of the wording of the state, or whether you evaluated him in terms of your own comments and suggestions, it would all be there.
Ellen, can I ask you something?
Sure.
So this evaluation is from the 4 of you and not Jonathan.
Right.
Can you not receive his evaluation because he has stepped down, or should you receive his evaluation because he was there?
He stepped down he resigned in December. The process was started in the fall. He just didn't participate.
And you also missed the October and November
Yeah, he
meetings
missed
as
the
well.
meetings.
So.
Okay.
Right.
I'm just curious if
Yeah.
that was something that, was involved in the 5
Well,
of you.
this is for the last academic year. He would have only been here for 2 or 3 meetings. So my feeling on it, I don't think he would have been able to participate, because I don't think he had enough to base his review on.
Okay,
Yeah.
The goals were set for the 13-14 school year.
Yeah.
okay.
And he wasn't elected until April.
but that's a good point. So are people comfortable with including everybody's individual evaluations as well as the guideline that Mrs. Bailey put together? And then a summary that summarizes that and including everybody's documents with a composite that then we can move on?
I stayed with her basic format. I try to stay away, because I don't believe necessarily in 360 evaluations. So I basically based it upon my observations, my discussions, the accomplishments that Mr. Schaefer had made through the 2013-2014 school year.
I've said it before, that whole rubric and the way that system works, I don't understand it. I don't think it does a service to Peter. I went to a narrative with discussion on how I thought his performance went in areas where I thought, things to consider to work on. And I'm just going to submit that and stand behind what I wrote.
That's why I'm suggesting attaching everyone's comments in total.
That's fine, but his contract does call for a composite. I mean, it says here, there's a subcommittee, an evaluation subcommittee appointed by the school committee chairman will gather with written input from all committee members, and then will meet with the superintendent to discuss the committee's members' evaluation and receive feedback from the superintendent. And a copy of the annual composite evaluation report is to be placed in the superintendent's file. I mean,
Right, which I'm saying, I've done here, we can go back and now these can be divided out if people are comfortable with everybody receiving each other's individual evaluations. Those will be included.
right, and then the subcommittee, based on committee members' evaluations, prepares a composite of the evaluation reports and submits this, together with a report from the meeting with the superintendent of the committee. This shall be the only composite evaluation released to the public and press. That's what's in his contract. So, I mean, I look at this is his contract, I think as school committee members, especially the way this was drafted, I want to see what the other comments were. I feel like I'm entitled to that, especially as an elected official, to be able to see that. With that, I don't want to cause confusion by including, if we were supposed to come up with a composite by subcommittee, are we creating confusion by having all the documents attached? I'm not trying to create confusion, I'm just trying to have something that's reflective of what the entire committee wrote. Because there was even one line in here about the committee all acknowledges. I didn't have anything related to what they're, so it's referencing what I wrote. I didn't write, I don't want my name associated with a certain sentence that's in there. That wasn't reflective of what I wrote, but it says the committee all acknowledges. I didn't say that. And I'm not trying to be difficult, but I just think if you take what is written here and you hold it up, this is all we have, 2 paragraphs. These 2 paragraphs. This is all filler, and this is all just from a mission statement we just read. So we've got 2 paragraphs here, 2 paragraphs.
We all have it in our packets.
Right, but I just want to make sure that people at home can see, if people are watching, that this is what we, as a school committee, feel about Peter Schaefer. The person that is committed to this school is the CEO of it. This is the best we can do for him. I think this is a disservice to Peter Schaefer. He does too good of a job, works too hard for the kids in the town to only give him that. It's a disservice to him, I'm sorry. We can't give more than that. And that's what people at home need to know, that this person is dedicated to the Abington Public Schools. The town of Abington works hard for us, and we need to step up and support him and say, you're doing a great job, you're doing it here, here, and here. But also, there's certain areas where everybody can improve. everybody can, especially me. But it's like, I think we need to do more than this.
Ellen, how was it done last year?
It was actually even more brief than this. We used the same rubric formula.
The one that Kathy has? The
Well,
outlines?
There were 43.
The year before this, in the, was the first time the new evaluation system from the state was brought out.
Okay, so this is a
And it-
new way.
And it was used for it was started with the teachers, and they used a computerized program for it. So, in order to keep Peter's evaluation in line with what was being done within the system, we did it online with that program, which didn't give us as much leeway in terms of comments or what have you. In order to make it simple and yet still keep with the rubric that was established by the state, I created a form, and actually, this isn't a blank form, it's actually my evaluation, but I broke down each of his goals by the standards, and then you look at the rubric from the state, and it gives you a descriptor of what it would look like if someone was doing that job proficiently, and what it would look like if someone was doing that task in an exemplary manner. So basically, you look at his goal, you look at the rubric, and determine what area it goes in, and you check it off. And then I put a box down for any comments or suggestions, because part of the evaluation process isn't just whether Peter's doing a good job or not, but to give him an idea where we want him to set his goals coming up for the future, and to help him, because everyone can always improve, no one's perfect, to help him improve his own professional process. And it's kind of easy to collate when you actually are, it's kind of like giving a student an A, B, a C, or a D. So if we give them an A, B, C, or D, and we add up all those A, B, Cs, and Ds, and then just list all the comments behind it, you've got a very thorough picture of what we were looking at. But I'm used to using rubrics. I'm used to working with this kind of format, so it seemed very logical to me. It doesn't mean that it's as easy or logical for everyone else.
No, I think in my experience, we use, we don't necessarily call them rubrics, but it's a very similar format in the way that we need to provide evaluations based upon our processes as well. And so it made a lot of sense to be able to, especially with that table. I really felt that the table provides some real good input.
So you use
overall.
that as well?
Yes.
If I could, just for a second, we're talking about my evaluation, so I'll start this by saying I need to stand about as far away from the desk where I'm graded as possible, and then look at the final evaluation that the committee provides, and then use that to inform my work, obviously. But all I want to say is the history behind this. There's a lot of different forces and factors at play in Massachusetts, none the least of which is the new evaluation tool that we had to implement last year for the entire system. And I asked if I could write my goals in such a way that the entire school system could focus their work, because we had teachers and principals and schools at different grade levels and different subject areas that all had to really be in alignment with the way we write SMART goals. So that was one confusing piece. And along with that comes a state rubric on everything under the sun imaginable that I could do in my job. So that confused things. And that's nobody's fault here in Abington. That's just the condition in Massachusetts. And the other thing that happens was mentioned earlier is my contract. And really, that's what drives my evaluation, but that's because that's what the committee agreed to. Now, not everybody here, was a part of that contract, but that contract is what drives, obviously, in the end, in my opinion, the evaluation process. And when I've checked with MASC on this, that's what they said, because last year we talked about this, and that's what I did. And so I'm comfortable, obviously, with what this committee decides to provide, just, looking for that evaluation as was described by people that helps to inform my work.
I do have a blank copy. Can I pass that down to Leslie so that she knows what we're talking about?
Thank you, Peter.
And I think also, too, that later on in the meeting tonight, Peter's going to present his goals for the next year. And you'll see that some of the things that were mentioned within the individual evaluations are part of that. And I don't think anybody's disputing how, the work that Mr. Schaefer's doing. Tried to make it as best a composite as possible within those guidelines.
But let me ask you, what are the guidelines? Because Peter, we're talking about a rubric in the state, and Peter has a contract.
And
So-
contract, I believe, requires him to set goals
Set
and
goals.
for us to evaluate him on those goals.
Okay. So what
I
does that
find
mean? What does that
the
mean?
state rubric just makes it, for me, makes it easier to be more subjective, to come up with a better evaluation, for me.
I don't know.
So by adding all these evaluations and maybe changing the overview,
Tweaking it.
tweaking it, we want to push this off to the next meeting? Is that what we want to do? Or, I don't know.
I think by, each member can be given the other members a packet with the other members' individual evaluations. I'm not saying, we're not saying things need to be changed on the individual side. And then that compiled, I'll get something put together and get it out to people in time, and then I would think that we would have to, at the next meeting, we need to vote, and we need to move on it, if that's how people feel. Is there any more discussion, or?
I don't have anything else.
So we'll just bring this back in March?
Oh, unless people want to vote on this tonight, I mean, I think that's, we need to, people need to have time to, if they want to look over. You requested each other committee members' evaluations. You need to have time to look them over before you'd want to vote on it, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't support this. So, if you want to vote, I couldn't support this. But how are we going to compile? So, as Mike said, I mean, my evaluation is set. I'm not going to change a word on that. But what happens, so is the subcommittee still the chair?
Yes.
Okay, and I forget how this all came about. It's just, I'm just trying to understand. So, according to the contract, it says the chair sets the evaluation subcommittee. Is that what happened, or did we as a committee appoint Ellen as the evaluation subcommittee?
I think we agreed that Ellen would collect all of them. I don't know whether you would call it appointed her or not, but we did agree that we would all send it to Ellen and that she would compile it.
So are we in compliance with the contract that says it's supposed to be a subcommittee?
Yes, that's what it says. It says the subcommittee, which is the chair.
So subcommittee of one.
And historically in Abington, the chair has appointed subcommittee members to each subcommittee.
Right, but we can have a subcommittee, with the exception of the website subcommittee. We can have a subcommittee of one? That,
Yeah.
okay.
I guess, from my experience, when you're trying to do evaluations and you're trying to do a composite, the more people you have, the more difficult it becomes, and the more you can't get to a solution.
Are you volunteering for a subcommittee?
Oh, I'm not volunteering for it at all. I'm staying away from it. No, I don't, I'd rather not. But for me, we can take all of our own personal experiences, in public and private, considering the role that Peter plays in this town, as far as when you think of him as the CEO of the Abington Public Schools, and where he is when it comes to, police chief, fire chief, town manager, superintendent. I want to be very thoughtful and careful in every word that we put out to the public how we feel about our superintendent. Because how we feel about our superintendent reflects on how we feel, I think, on our public schools in Abington. And I don't think 2 paragraphs on our, and one of them, and part of it saying he didn't meet the goal, is reflective of a positive impression we have of our superintendent. I think that's wrong. He works too hard for that, to come up with 2 paragraphs. That's just wrong.
So can I make a motion, to move this agenda item to the next meeting with a composite of all of the individual evaluations combined with a updated overview evaluation, and we'll vote on it next time around.
Yep.
Second.
Aye.
Yeah.
And before we leave tonight, I'll make sure that everybody gets a packet. So next on our agenda, we have the reading and the approval of records from February 3rd.
So if I could just, for a moment, if I state that question about the minutes has arisen about the specificity of some of the discussion items, and then rather than deliberate on the specificity of those items, what I'd like to offer to do, the minutes that you have here, is come back next month with more specifically described discussions in another, I'm proposing another draft of this set of minutes. People can certainly vote these if they'd like, but I'd like another crack at providing the secretary with a copy that has more specific details in the discussion, including assignment of some of the things that were stated during the meeting.
I'll make a motion to move the minutes from February 3rd, 2015 to our next scheduled meeting in March.
I'll second that.
Yes.
All in favor?
Can I make a comment, however? I think what's been happening with our minutes is in some areas they're becoming very, very specific, and in other areas they're more general. And according to the protocols that we arrived at, a complete record of official actions taken by the committee relative to the superintendent's recommendations to communications and to all business transacted. Resolutions and motions will be given in their exact wording, accompanied by names of members moving and seconding, and a record of the results of the vote. Reports and documents relating to a formal motion may be omitted if they're referred to and identified by title and date. So this is really not expecting total specificity. So I think we really need to think about whether we want to change what we have in our protocols for our minutes, or how we want to handle them coming down the pike, because I mean, I think Teresa does a very good job with them, and I think sometimes it's very difficult to know what she has to be specific with and what can just be listed as it says in our guidelines. So it's something that we might want to think about as we move forward.
But we have to be careful we don't lose the tone and the context of questions and statements that are made in a meeting. I mean, we have to be very careful of that, because if questions are asked of a specific, someone presenting, or a question to Peter or even another school committee member, we have to be able to weigh, like, okay, this isn't just an average comment or a follow-up. This is something that's specific and something that's important to somebody, so it needs to be reflected in the minutes. And, and we've got to make sure we get things correct. We can't refer to things that didn't happen, or that taking things out of order. We can't combine. If someone makes a statement up here, initially, and then concludes with something, you can't take those and put those together, because you have to take it in the order that the statement was made, so we have to be careful. And I think before this one, the minutes, I didn't have a problem with the minutes, but I think we have to be careful on how we pull these together, that we don't lose the tone of a discussion or the context with which statements were made.
Perhaps we need to record our meetings in archives of recordings then.
Well, they are being recorded.
I don't know if they're archived or not.
I couldn't answer.
It's just something
what-
to think about going.
I don't know what the cable,
Going
in
forward.
terms of what I know about the cable, I don't know if the cable, I'd imagine there's some electronic copy somewhere with the cable company. I know that they keep all of those, but I don't know what format or how it's digitized.
Right, but unfortunately, this, by law, the minutes are the official record going forward
Right.
forever.
They are the official record. However, it's in the official record, it's not required to quote everything that's said at a meeting.
Oh, no, I wouldn't expect that, but we gotta have to make sure that you can't lose the context of, when you're looking at something a year from now, if someone asks a specific question, it's like, and, as you're going through, I mean, I know Teresa puts them together, but Kathy, as this school committee secretary, you're ultimately responsible for those in your role, to make sure they do meet what the school committee expects. So, I mean, we're all responsible for it. But you are the school committee secretary, so you have basically the final say before they come to us. So do we vote on that?
So we're going to hold on minutes then?
There was already a motion and a vote.
Oh, sorry, yeah, okay. So next we have the report from the superintendent of schools.
Under other matters in your packet, you've got a copy of the preliminary budget for FY16. So I want to thank Felicia and Paul and Mike for putting this together. This will be the topic of discussion this Saturday when we meet with the Finance Committee. I believe we're meeting here at 8 o'clock on Saturday with the Finance Committee. It's been posted so that, just in case, we get members coming as we report this out and answer their questions. We're covered in terms of the open meeting law. And there is really, this isn't different than what you saw in the preliminary budget proposal a month ago in terms of overall numbers and priorities. It is certainly more specific and better referenced with enclosures that support the message of the school department. And certainly if, we've got subcommittee members here and we've got Felicia here, if they want to add anything or people want to ask any questions, I'll just briefly give you an overview. It begins with my overview about the challenges and the things that were considered in putting this budget packet together, and the challenges that we face as a system in terms of meeting our goal of acting in the best interests of our students and providing them a top-notch education. It's got a budget history page, population sizes and class sizes, staffing charts, how the budget is broken down by percentages and allocation. It's got a major increase page that people like to spend a lot of time on because it's where they see movement in budgets. So it lends itself to those discussions and questions that I'm sure we'll have on Saturday. And it's got the priorities as described in terms of positions, and then it also includes the positions that were considered that didn't make the priority list, but that we still feel as a school department would be good for our students to have, because in a school system, when you add a position, it's really programmed for kids. It's not just about creating this massive department, it's about providing students an education. It includes the background information on the textbooks that are our priority in our budget. It includes a spreadsheet, a line item by item in the budget, and as it's been crafted and projected, and it advocates for improvements to the school system so that we can provide good and better educational service to our kids. And regardless of the challenges, the school system has an obligation to advocate for an improved program for its students. Just like I would be disappointed if the police chief didn't look to add police officers to better protect citizens. That's what the school system is charged with, doing a good job educating children, and that's what I see here. And I just want to thank people that participated in it, and any comments that I missed or questions that people might have.
No questions, comments?
Just want to thank Alicia and Mike and Paul for all their work, as well as Mr. Schaefer. It's a lot of work. And it's 8 o'clock here, Saturday.
Yes. So,
Probably might want to get here early. It's probably going to be standing room only.
Yeah, sure.
it could be, and it will be a televised event. I don't know if it'll be live or not, but if you missed it, or you can't get a seat, it'll be on cable. So.
Oh, you don't want to get out of your PJs.
So. Without questions, I'll move on.
So we don't need to, there's no motion.
There's no motion. So the next item is the control of the property at 500 Brockton Avenue. In your packet, you have a diagram, a GIS map, and you have a description from the assessor's office. I need to thank the assessor's office because Joe Shea and Jody Hurst, who work in the assessor's office with Jack Pastrino, have been outstanding with providing information about this and other properties around Abington that have been in question about the school department's control or not control. And I just want to highlight for people, though, that on this map, as you look at it, in the GIS map in your packet, there's we're talking about property for people that are watching on TV behind Walmart in that area. It's a wooded, wet area. It is highly unlikely, I believe back in 1958, it was provided to the school department in anticipation that an elementary school would be built there. That was back in the days when we were building neighborhood schools, which I wish we were still back in those days because I think that's great, but that doesn't happen these days because of the efficiencies that we actualize by consolidating like we have. The piece of property in the map, though, shows the wet area in the middle. The shaded area continues on to the area that there's see a little a rectangle with an extension that leads out to, I used to have good eyes, Linwood Street. That Linwood Street property is included in this, just for the purposes of clarity. As I looked at this map, I wasn't sure that was clear. It may have just looked like that. I don't know what to call that. It's not a rhombus, but that rectangle. So, a suggestion, and I don't know, was made that we've had an Abington School Building Committee that's been meeting and studying proposed futures for the Abington Public Schools and where school buildings will be built and how they'll be built. And so there was a suggestion to ask for a recommendation from that. I don't want to speak for Paul. Paul made that, asked that question. I think it's a good question.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, I know we had talked about this a few months ago, about different properties that we had, and we were going to come up with a comprehensive plan. But I think if we, I think we're all of the opinion, it's like, I'm not sure what we're going to do with this property, and probably should go back to town. But just get a recommendation from the school building committee to say, yeah, we don't see in the distant future that you're ever going to need this property, so they can make a recommendation to us. Because I'm not really sure that I'm in a position to say, send it back. I don't think we need it, but if we got a recommendation from those folks that have been looking at this for a number of years, I feel a lot more comfortable. And considering we've had this property since 1957, another month may not hurt. Just, so.
So we would be asking Rich Testa, that's the chair of the building
Right.
committee.
Yeah, make a motion to go back to the Abington School Building Committee for a recommendation on transferring this property back to the town of Abington.
In terms of process, you have control as school committee members. It's your vote to release it back to the town. And it would be the Abington School Building Committee, who haven't even heard about this request yet, would offer a recommendation as Paul described. They don't transfer the control back to the town, you do, if that happens, but they would
They're just sort of
weigh
blessing
in.
it.
And I would expect, and I don't want to speak for Richard, he's the chair of that committee, he's done an outstanding job. I would guess he'd want to take this to the full Abington School Building Committee at our next meeting, which is March 10th. So then it would, if that's what the committee wishes to do, be ready. I think they'd want, I think he'd want the full Abington School Building Committee to think about the recommendation and vote it, so it was official and done that way, rather than just have him say, yeah. Because I think, as Paul mentioned, I think that's the likely answer for this piece of property going back to the town.
So we would have them, provide them all this documentation information prior to their March 10th meeting so that they can vote on it on their March 10th meeting?
Right.
So that we can come back and vote it on our March 24th meeting?
Correct. They'd provide you an opinion, a recommendation, better word.
I mean, there's no harm in doing it, just. So we'd need, we need to make a motion to send this, have you bring it to the,
Request a recommendation from the Abington School Building Committee?
Make that motion.
I second it.
all in favor?
Can I just ask one more question on sort of property?
Yeah.
There's been discussion in the past about other properties that we might have, you know, let's take the buildings that we know children are educated in, but there was a West Abington Hall.
Yep.
What's the status on that one?
As of this morning, and again, I want to thank Joe Shea. He did a very thorough and comprehensive search, and unless someone pulls out some town meeting record going back decades and decades and decades, there's a vote that we don't know about, the West Abington Hall is under the control of the Park and Recreation, and not the school department. That information is as fresh as about lunchtime today.
Yeah.
Timely question.
So, but that's always been kind of lower then, than it was always part of the
Correct.
Abington Public Schools, but now we find out.
Correct.
Okay.
And that could go back, I mean, that could go back 50, 60, 70 years to cooperative. I believe it goes back to cooperation between Park and Rec and the school department trying to set up a weight room 50, 60 years ago.
So other than, so now that that's been taken care of, we've got this one piece of property in Brockton, and then other than the buildings, that's all.
Well, the assessor's office is going to do a complete survey of everything, just to be sure. And, you know, you're talking about records, if people aren't aware at home, that go back to, you know, the day of the inkwell and bound leather journals that record ownership of property. So it's a lot of work researching those things, and sometimes deeds are, you know, fought over, or there's different opinions on them, but that work is being done now. Anything out there, we hope we find it, and if there's no use for it, it'll be my recommendation, it goes back to the town of Abington. And it's sort of, it's funny saying goes back to the town of Abington, because it's the town of Abington that owns everything even if a child's being educated in the building, it's the town of Abington that owns the building. It's technically under the control of the school department. So we're trying to find those, to answer the question.
Okay.
We'll turn those all back over if we don't need them. That'd be my recommendation, anyway.
And then eventually, with the new school coming online, there'll be a plan or a proposal what to do with schools that not have used to the school department.
I anticipate suggesting to the committee that the center school and the north school be turned back over, the control be turned back over to the town, so the town can make use of those assets and the taxpayers can make use of those any way that they choose.
Well, what would the timing on that be? Do you have any idea, or is that something that the school building committee would have to advise us on, as turning those back?
The timing in terms of the school department, my recommendation would be as soon as the students have left and we've cleaned them out and appropriately, I don't want to we wouldn't want to turn over anything that was a mess. That shortly after that, we're talking within months, they go right back. And the town can do assessments of those buildings in anticipation of that coming. That would be up to the Board of Selectmen and the town manager. But I'm confident that's going to be the recommendation of the Abington School Building Committee. I'm confident it's going to be my recommendation. And unless you guys want to have a building that we're not using, I'm guessing you'll probably want to turn that over.
I don't think we can afford to have buildings we're not using.
So based on what you were saying about the thorough search, if they were to uncover
Yep.
anything we didn't know about, they'd bring it back to you and
Right.
we could talk about
Yep,
it.
I'll bring that
Yep.
forward.
Okay, so,
We're not in the business of, having property we don't have any use for or need, or, so.
okay. So next we have dates to remember.
Do it. So under dates to remember, we have Wednesday, February 25th, Rachel's Challenge at Abington High School at 7 p.m. It's a wonderful program. It's about anti-bullying and some of the tragedies that occurred in Colorado. Saturday, February 28th, we have a meeting, as I described earlier, with the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen here in this room at 8 a.m. Tuesday, March 3rd, we have the school committee coffee hour at the town library at 6:30 to 8 p.m. Wednesday, March 4th, we have in-service early release. Also on March 4th, the Green Wave Boosters meeting at the Abington Police Station at 7 p.m. Tuesday, March 10th, we have the Abington Music Parents meeting at Abington High School at 7 p.m. On the 24th of March, we have our regularly scheduled school committee meeting.
Just a couple things I wanted to add is that three of our teams made the tournament this year. The hockey team is playing tonight. The boys' basketball team, I believe, is playing Thursday night at Wareham. And the girls' basketball team is playing Friday night here at home against the winner of Old Rochester and
Wareham.
Wareham.
Okay. So congratulations to them and good luck to them in the tournament.
Good luck, Sam.
And Sam, just, when's the banquet, the
The Super Bowl banquet?
Super Bowl banquet? Yeah.
It's March 15th,
And where is that being held?
Emerald Hall.
Okay. Is that a Saturday night?
No, it's a Sunday night.
Sunday night?
Yeah.
Okay. So Sunday night, March 15th
15th.
at 7 at
I think
Emerald?
6:30.
6:30,
Yeah.
Emerald Hall. And where do you get tickets?
Sean Riley's office, law office, and the Abington Depot.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
And it's also going to recognize ATN
Yeah,
for
it's a
the
state championship banquet.
So there's no motion on that. Next, we have the report of the Assistant Superintendent for Pupil Personnel Services, Dr. Thomas.
Hi there. I'm requesting a motion to approve the 2015-16 school calendar. As you know, every year we present the professional development for our school system, and we continue with the 8 half-days and the 1 full day, which will be held in October, on October 30th. Any questions?
I have one question. I wish I'd seen this before. Just for clarification purposes. It's September 1st to September 3rd. It says pre-K and kindergarten
Yeah,
begin,
Teresa.
and then September 8th.
Yeah, Teresa found that today, right? Or, so she gave it to me.
Orientation, the first.
An update.
Orientation.
Do you want to pass that down? Thank you for reminding me, Paul.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm saying.
So what Paul noted is changed here in this version you're getting, and it's with regard to kindergarten orientation and when kindergarten begins. This fixes that.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, so I just need a motion to
I'll make that
approve.
motion to approve the 2015-2016 school calendar.
Second?
All in favor?
Great, thank you.
Real
Next.
quickly, before people want to talk about snow.
And next, the next three items are informational. So we have professional development update that I usually conduct monthly. Our last PD day was on February 6th, and we did have it, even though we've had so many snow days this month. And there was a variety of PD that happened that day through our department meetings with curriculum planning, Common Core, state standard crosswalks, science assessments, MCAS action plans, vertical alignment of curriculum and lessons, as well as dibbles and progress monitoring. So there's been a variety of things taking place at the elementary as well as secondary. Today, we also had Mike Shackelford, who is working with us this year. This is his second day back, and he will be with us today and tomorrow. And he's focusing on curriculum instruction, assessment, and learning environments. And this time around, as you recall, he first came in October for a focus area at the middle and high school level and with our administrative leadership teams. And then he came back today and spent the day at every building. So we started the morning off at the high school and then worked our way down through the center school. And was able to meet with the leadership teams, the teacher leaders, the administrators within the school, and then do actual observations in classrooms at all levels throughout the district. So that will lend itself to our conversations that we'll be having with the leadership team and teacher leaders tomorrow in a full-day training with him that will take place at the North River Collaborative. It was a great day, actually, being out in schools. We saw over 50 classrooms. So,
They went into my daughter's classroom.
yeah, it was great. And the little ones are a riot.
Yeah, she said
Like,
they were
who are
crying.
you? What are you doing here? What's your name? You know, why?
That's exactly. She was like, he came in, someone came in our classroom.
It was just a great day. And he has a great southern accent because he's from Tennessee. So to watch the kids, you know, really, you know, their eyes were just like, where are you from? You know, it was, and he relates well to children. So he was very engaging. So it was really nice, and the teachers were very receptive, and it was really to get a feel for our culture, our belief system. You know, he's worked all over the world, and in, you know, 46 states in the United States, but he has, you know, every state has different regulations. But even in every state, every district has a different culture. Every school in the district has different cultures.
Right.
So it's through the lens of, you know, what he's learned in his experience, but also looking at all those areas, the 4 areas of the learning environment, curriculum, instruction, and assessment are a common theme no matter where you go in the world. And so, you know, I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
So who is meeting tomorrow with him?
It's the leadership team, so that's made up of teacher leaders such as department heads, directors, administrators, and we'll be meeting. The North River Conference Center is just it's a huge, beautiful room that gives you space for that learning environment, and so we'll be working together as teams in those areas. We have a lot of homework, too,
And
so
it's
I have
only
to
for
do
one
that
day.
tonight.
It's for one day only?
It is for one day tomorrow, yes. He did 2 days, so today was the day of visiting and touring and meeting and speaking and observing and really looking at teaching and learning. And then tomorrow is bringing everyone together and talking about leadership through the lens of those 4 areas. So we're going to see how it goes and then determine, you know, future steps. in
Talk about
terms
why
of
the
area.
leaders,
I'm sorry?
you want to talk about why the leaders, the teacher leaders are involved in this, so that
Well, the
happens
teacher leaders
next?
are on our leadership team, so Peter runs the leadership as well as an administrative team, and the leadership, the distinction is that they are the curriculum leaders for the district. And so you have teacher leaders who teach, but they also run departments, such as, at the content areas, at the middle school and high school, English, math, foreign language, you name it. So they're all part of it, and they represent, what needs to be done in those areas for their departments. And then at the elementary level, we have the director of elementary, curriculum instruction assessment, as well as some of the directors that are full-day teachers, but also get together and work in those same areas. So it'll be bringing everyone together for the common language, common understanding, what's our belief system, and then also looking at some of the feedback that we've received through our audits, through our district review, through the DSAC in terms of the level 1, 2, 3 status, relative to MCAS levels, as you've heard earlier in the year. So you take all of that, put it together, and then really try to hone in on, we already know that our area of weakness is in the areas of English language learners, low income and special ed, according to the state, the MCAS. And so what can we do with the capacity of the staff and the resources that we have? And so really honing in and targeting that, but also addressing rigor at all levels, addressing, differentiation at all levels. What are you doing for your high-level kids who are in, advanced levels, all the way down to kids that, need interventions. So, that will be, what we work on. But it's not, it won't be just done tomorrow. It's then really looking at, do we want to commit to a 2 to 5 year plan for this district moving forward with him? And in that commitment, what does that mean? You look at, expectations, you look at how many days, you look at, the costs, and then determine if that's something that we believe, we're going to do together with him. So we'll be analyzing that tomorrow, conducting surveys to get feedback. We're going to be having debriefing after it. So we'll see how it goes.
And then you'll touch base with us next month?
Yep. And you can always email me, I know I always say, you're always welcome. I really mean that, you're always welcome, the more the merrier. But it's also just knowing it. But I also know you have full-time jobs or part-time jobs, you have families, you have other things going on. But I can't say enough that you're the parents who are out in the fields, who are everywhere, that can really explain, what is it that they do on those in-service days? What exactly are they doing when they take that full day? I think it's powerful when you have, that information.
Right.
So,
Is Michael scheduled for any other days this year?
no, just the 3 that we have built in.
So when he finishes his evaluation or write-up, will we get to see that?
He's not charged with doing an evaluation or write-up for us.
So what's the?
He would do it, we would be doing a survey on what we thought of him, based on the training he provides. Tomorrow is what I was just talking about. But in terms of, he would be giving us, what he offers, what he believes in are his strengths. And is this something that the district wants to move forward on? But it's a commitment, so
Okay,
that's
so
why.
he's just providing training and leadership to us, but it's not going to result in any communication from him back to us to say, this is what I saw some of the strengths and
Correct.
weaknesses are. Okay.
Although he was very positive, so if you want a verbal feedback, after he was in a car with me all day today and was with me for the last 7.5 hours, he was very positive about all the work that he's seeing. And he works in all different states. And Massachusetts does very well, but I do believe it comes at an expense. I mean, we have initiative after initiative after initiative after initiative, and we're always running against time because it's 180 days. And do we ever really get to that level of depth that we really need to get to? Because we're always running against the clock. And so, he was very complimentary about what he saw. And so, but he pushed back on, what are you taking off the plates of teachers? What are you taking off the plates of administrators? And that's an answer that all of us want. And I've been in this business for over 20 years, and my response was, we don't take it off, we just shift it. And it's like a tray, you just keep moving the plates. And so it's those kinds of things that he's going to be pushing back on. But I do think that, it's all about leadership. It's all about belief systems, and the initiatives are going to continue to come, but what's most important is what's happening in classrooms for student achievement.
So how would that work as far as coming up with a 2 to 5 year plan? Is that something we enter into a contract with him?
Yep.
And it lays out what the expectations are?
It would lay out in a contract what he would provide to the Abington
Right.
Public Schools, what we would be asking of him.
And when would we expect to kick that off? Because I don't remember talking about this in the budget process.
Yeah, that would be coming, professional development, we have discussed, comes out of grants. And so grants, PD, you allocate that in terms of needs. And so that would be a particular area, just like this year, a particular area that we would say, okay, we're going to earmark a certain amount of money in terms of, this grant, this grant, this grant. We're targeting certain areas, so it could come out of the special education grant, could come out of Title I grants.
But so it wouldn't come out of the operating
Correct.
budget, it would come out of grant? Okay, all
Right.
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 And it doesn't change, the decision to bring him in doesn't change our mission. Our mission is still the same focus, our mission is still the same, mission, our focus is still the same focus. He's helping us get there, and we're evaluating whether or not we feel he's what we need to get us there.
Correct.
And are we at that point now where we could determine whether he's that individual to get us there?
Are you asking me, or would you want to hear it from the leadership team?
Because you talked about, we're
After
going to do an
7.5
evaluation after
Right.
everybody, after he leaves, everybody who has participated is going to
Okay,
do
all
an
right, all right.
evaluation.
So I don't want to, I don't want to.
Right.
That's the evaluation Tim was talking about, the feedback.
Right, okay.
All
So
right.
once that all comes back, then you would make, okay, we want to, make a commitment to this over the next 2 to 5 years.
Yeah, and there are many factors that come into that, And the biggest one for Abington Public Schools is the commitment to time and money.
Right.
So that even though it's coming out of a grant, it's going to be a significant amount of money because you have, a highly paid consultant fee. And so it's really about making those hard decisions of, okay, what do we believe we need? And can we do it? Is there somebody else? Or is Mike the person that we want to commit 2 to 5 years to do this? And so I think that in order to provide all of them, many of them already went through, if not, most of them went through the first day. Many of them, if not all of them, were involved today when we were in schools, and then all of them will be there tomorrow. So it should, after 3 days, I think that, people will be able to give input.
Yeah, and I thought he was good as far as from the standpoint of, to do this, you got to be all in. You to go halfway, what's the point? You waste, he can do it, and he loves to get paid, but it's like, what's the point?
Right.
So to me, I thought he was impressed from that standpoint of just being very honest. It's like, don't waste your time if you're not going to be committed to, like you said, we need to take things off people's plate to really get this thing accomplished.
Right. So I'll get back to you on that, let you know how that goes, and we'll talk about it next month at our next school committee meeting. All right, any other questions on that? All righty. Next is the 2014-15 District Improvement Plan update, so that you have in here basically an update of what was presented last year of the improvement plan, and looking at what were the focus areas this year, and we're still currently in this year. So as you're aware, the Abington School Building Project, the pre-K middle high school facility, successful vote for the new construction project, et cetera. So that's been a lot of work, as you're aware of. Felicia reports out on that monthly. There's ongoing meetings that happen for a building committee, but there's also ongoing educational program meetings that are happening regularly, and that will continue, throughout this year and then moving into the future. So that's actually been a wonderful, positive thing for the Abington school community. Results from the Center for District and School Accountability, the district review audit, which you've heard me talk about in the past, and we have embedded the district review recommendations into our district improvement plan and also our school improvement plans. Targeted assistance support
And then
from,
just on that, is that the one that was done last March?
yeah.
So are we gonna, I mean, because when you read that report, are we going to get, because it was provided a couple of months ago for informational purposes, but is someone going to come back and address the issues that were presented in that audit report? Because, I mean, I'm just saying from just a layperson reading it, there were things in there that someone could take away and say, those are a little troubling. And so it's a public document that's out there now, that if we could have someone just come back and just explain, because I know, Peter, I think you had said some of these things when you go through it, and I know absolutely as an auditor, when you come up with these things, but there's a lot that goes into how everything's baked into it. But my concern is just that there's a public document out there that was critical in certain areas that we don't have an explanation for.
Yeah, the state actually said they would be coming out. We haven't heard from them in terms of the presentation yet.
Oh, so they're going to follow up with us?
That was part of the protocol.
Okay, all right.
When they did you may not have been here when they did the presentation about, which was probably, a year before they actually came, about, here's what it is, here's what's going to happen, here are the protocols you need to follow, here's everything you need to do to upload all the documentation, here's what the site visit's going to consist of, and then we will come out and give you, they'll do a school committee presentation, we will
Okay.
give you feedback on that. So that's something, but also be assured that it is, we take those documents and we take them seriously and we embed them into the school improvement plans. So that's where your school councils collaborate, on looking at those documents and then making and contributing to goals for the next school year, as well as the district improvement plan.
And then in other areas like this, like the district improvement plan,
Right.
to address those things. Just because we're waiting for them to come out and talk to us doesn't mean we're not already
Right.
working at those things.
Right.
And in my opinion, not all of them were fair. Some were, and some weren't.
Well, I think if you did a comparison of ours to other districts, which whenever you get an audit, you always go on, or I do, and I go on and I check, a lot of it is a template. So you'll see a commonality in all districts of certain items, and then there are some that were unique to Abington. And so looking at that and just basically making sure that, we're addressing that as best we can.
And I do know, because I did the same thing, you look at other districts, and sometimes when, as an auditor, it's always one of these things, it's like, oh, yeah, this looks pretty good. So as far as the volume of comments, and it's not, we weren't on the high side when you compare us to other districts. It's like, they go around and just nail everybody
Right.
with things, and that's where the context of how we fared in this, and what the takeaway is.
Right. And I'll sound less defensive if I'm more specific about what I think is unfair. For example, one of the comments from it is that there isn't enough input in the district in the professional development plan that's provided to teachers. Okay, well, it's, if you think about that, the state has required the professional development for the last 2 or 3 years, so we haven't had a choice. So is that a fair assessment of the choice that people get in professional development when we as a system really haven't had a choice? The state's been choking us with initiatives. So that's one area. That doesn't mean that the whole document, it doesn't have a value, it does. But that's just, again, I think you have to be careful about what they gave us.
And also in fairness too, because teachers take this very personal, and because they were in their classrooms. And what also came out of those conversations were, well, I know they came in my classroom, but they never asked me, do you have kids with special needs? Do you have kids with ELL, low income, et cetera? But yet they made a broad comment about all of that, and they never had asked the teacher or the administrator or me. So that's a good example of, it was kind of a broad sweep, because they never went in and said, oh, is Paul Title I, is Kathy Special Ed, is Dimna ELL? So they wouldn't have that type of data if they didn't know who exactly. So I think they looked at it broadly as every classroom must have SPED, Title I, ELL, et cetera. So,
Okay.
But again, we use other items like your MCAS scores or like, whatever progress monitoring tools to say, we have to look at our ELL population and our low income and our special ed. And what are we going to do differently with the capacity that we have? Next is targeted assistance support from the District and School Assistance Center. You heard also in terms of our leveling status based on the MCAS and the high needs that I just described. So we have teams that go to monthly meetings, as well as the district DSAC, they're called, for the District and School Assistance Center, comes to Abington Public Schools. We've also written grants for resources, and so that's ongoing supports in the areas of the targeted assistance for low-income ELL and special education. Yep, that's okay.
Just as far as, just, because when you see this, it says level 3 status. That level 3 status just means that if any school in the district is at that level, everybody. So you could have all level 1, but one is at level 3, and so you're considered a level 3 district. Okay.
To go even further, we have a subgroup in one building. It's called the high need subgroup that Dimna has described, students who are English language learners, or students with disabilities, or students with a low income status. They're what are considered the high needs group, that group. So that entire school, or the majority of the students in the school could be performing at the highest level in the state. Everybody else in the whole district in Massachusetts could be advanced. And if you have a subgroup of, let's say, 30 students in one building at that level, then the entire district is labeled with that level.
Next bullet is concentration on the intervention, supports, and resources for those targeted high needs groups. And then, we always are analyzing and providing additional support with the staff that we currently have. And we truly use everyone humanly possible to really look at supports and interventions, for our students, including, maintenance and cafeterias and everybody jumps on board to assist and help with what we currently have. Universal district-wide common planning time, as you know, this is exciting because this is the first year that all 5 buildings have common planning time. And with the Wave Week Wednesday, it has brought the high school on board with that common planning time, which has really been a success. So it's actually exciting that all our schools have common planning time built in.
Can I just, I don't mean to be a pain in the neck, but when you say universal district-wide, what does that mean?
That means it just goes district-wide, so it goes from center all the way, so pre-K all the way to 12. All educators have time to come together for common planning time.
So is it just district-wide common planning? Like, where's the universal come in? That's what I'm a little, it says universal district-wide. What is universal district-wide, or is it just district-wide?
I meant it as universal, like, the importance here is we had 4 out of 5 schools having it. So now it's universal, so it's across. But if that's a sticking point, trust me, I can take it out, Paul.
No, I did, it's
then
more, and I know some of this is just.
Hold on, and I know wording can sometimes be
Right.
troubling. District-wide means all schools.
Yes, all schools.
Okay, so you don't like universal.
So what's the universal piece of it?
It's everyone, like all staff, all educators.
Throughout that entire
Okay,
district.
all right.
But
okay.
also because the Wave Wednesdays we were just able to do that this past year,
Right.
right? So up until that,
It was not
it was not at the high
universal.
school, it wasn't universal.
Okay.
And tomorrow is a Wave Wednesday.
It does not mean that people in other galaxies have common planning time.
Jump in, Sam. And then professional development opportunities designed specifically for curriculum instruction assessment and educator evaluation measures. And that's certainly ongoing with monthly updates that you hear from me, but also it's ongoing in terms of just continuing to stay abreast of all the initiatives. District-wide grading and assessment, as I referred to, Dr. Michael Shackelford. Special education coordinated program mid-cycle review audit, as well as the special education circuit breaker audit, as you've heard us or me talk about. Joint Labor Management Committee, we're in year 2 of the Abington Educator Evaluation System and Baseline Edge electronic management platform, and that's really a collaborative joint labor between our AEA, Abington Education Association, as well as us, the Abington Public Schools, and really focusing on the evaluation process And that's something that is going to continue to be revised as changes are made at the, state level. And then it's also negotiated contractually.
That Joint Labor Management Committee, what governs that committee? Is there something that we have in writing that, the makeup of it, how it works,
Yep.
how it functions?
Yeah, actually, that came from the state in terms of that there would be a joint labor management committee. And then it was approved by the association.
It was born
What's
out of the
word?
last round of negotiations because we, not the negotiations around
Ratified.
the salary and contract, but we were required to negotiate the evaluation tool that we were using. The state pushed down a model tool, and then you could accept what they gave you, or you could modify it. And so we modified it, and an outcrop of that in what the state gave us was setting up this joint labor management committee to iron out district-determined measures that we've talked about and other nuances within the evaluation tool, so that you didn't just implement the tool and then both labor and management didn't have an opportunity to adjust it over a couple of years as you implemented it. So that's the
Right.
goal of this committee, to make those adjustments.
And that's worked effectively, has it?
Yeah, and thank you for pointing that out, as I really should thank the team. I mean, we've had Jessica Kinsman as well as Steve Shannon as the president and vice president, but also Andrea Doyle, Karen Bonner, Diane Silvetti. Those have been the representatives for the labor side. And then we've had our team of administrators on our side. And it's honestly been, it's a nice group. I mean, this is a lot of work. This is a huge change in Massachusetts. And all of them committed, they went through the first year, and then they chose to stay on for the second year, because it's really a cohesive group that we've gone through the good, the bad, and the ugly in terms of not only, getting through, all right, what did the state mean? What does that mean for the Abington Public Schools? But also, you're also navigating the baseline edge platform. And so with the technology platform also came some obstacles, just in the usage, and then making sure the forms were accurate, making sure that the timing and the dates were accurate. But it's really come together, and we've actually had such a nice cohesive group, so that, because last year was tough. I mean, there were so many initiatives. All our PD was devoted towards evaluation. People were sick of it. And it was nice that this group was able to go out and say, this is not coming from Peter Schaefer. This is the state, it's mandated, we have to do it, but we do have autonomy over how we can roll it out. And providing them the time to roll it out, providing them the supports to roll it out, and then also providing them the opportunity to really share with us, well, what's working, what's not working, and what can we do to change it that still stays, with the essence of the regulation. So, and it's something that the state keeps pushing out different timelines till this day. And so, it's a 3-year commitment, and then through the process, negotiation process, they may say it'll continue, or it might be just as an as-needed group. I think time will tell in terms of where the MTA stands with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and where that also moves. So I'll keep you up to date on that. And then you actually being on the negotiation team know that there's language that we also will be addressing at the joint labor and making that recommendation to the negotiation team.
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty, so the next item, any other questions on that? No? Okay. Is the 2015-16 Thinking Ahead for the District Improvement Plan. And you may see that, why is it different? Like, why are the titles different from, the previous one? And basically, this comes out of this is what the Department of Ed comes in and evaluates schools on. This is exactly the areas that when they conducted the, district review audit, that they looked for, these areas. We have a strategic plan that has, similar, but with different titles, so that when we do our updated, strategic plan in the future, then we'll be using the language of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
So a good part of this is compliance.
Correct. So, as you'll see under leadership and governance, the first one is construct an educationally appropriate pre-K middle high school facility, which is ongoing. Communicate a clear and concise vision to faculty, staff, and community that incorporates ongoing initiatives and state and federal mandates, which that is ongoing. Establish a comprehensive policy review plan to ensure that all policies of the Abington Public Schools are reviewed and updated regularly. That's something that is underway with Jim Hardy from the MASC, through the school committee. And then continue the review and implementation of the Abington Educator Evaluation System with revisions as needed. So those are the main points, again, that we will be focusing on for in the next school year.
Can I just, on the first one, construct, are we in the design phase of that? Should we design and construct? Because I don't want to, it's because we won't, in 15,
It won't be built by
16.
16, yeah.
Right, that we would, because, I mean, you reported last time about the mock-ups and stuff, so there is design that's still classroom and that sort of stuff, so it's not just about construction in this period.
Design, begin construction.
Right.
Right.
Because by 16, it'll start,
It'll start.
shovels will be in the ground.
Right,
Right,
halfway through
Yeah.
this plan.
yeah.
So I'll add design and keep construct.
Oh, yeah, because it's
Begin.
both that is going on during
Yeah,
the year.
Wanted to
begin
double check.
construction.
Yeah, begin construction, yeah. And then, just on the last one, just for clarification, because it's continue and review and implementation of the Abington Educate. How does this work? Like, are we always, with this thing, always going to be an implementation stage, or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we haven't even started all the surveys that have to be implemented because the state has put a slowdown on that because of the new MTA president.
Or calibrating district-determined measures.
The whole district-determined measures component is implementation. You laugh, but this is a nightmare.
No,
It's like, it's so, and I get what you're saying. I mean, it is so, you're right. I mean, this is something that they change it every 20 years, and it's going to take about 5 to 10 years to get it to where it really needs to be. And so this particular implementation is going to probably stay there because every time they're making a change, it impacts every negotiation contractual team, as well as the joint labor, as well as what we're doing at the building levels.
Well, I feel like I have my father sitting on my shoulder. It's like, he retired 27 years ago, and it's sort of like, I listen to this all the time. It's like, it seems like it's less about the kids and more about the paperwork. And it's like, this is just more paperwork that you can't, and where's the time come to be in front of children?
Yeah, we don't make this stuff up in some dark room
Oh, no.
because we have nothing else to do.
Right, this is the stuff like, oh, geez, I got a great idea, let's add more paperwork. This is mandated and pushed down from the state, and,
Well, and you experienced it with Peter's evaluation. It's rubric's the same for all teachers and administrators. So it's going through that whole process together.
right,
So it's
oh, yeah, I know.
interesting.
Yeah, and I'm only doing one. See how well that's going.
Right. Okay. So human resources and professional development. Really honing in on collaboration, providing sufficient resources to plan, develop, and support a system-wide coordinated, high-quality professional development program, really looking at best practices and current research. Providing ongoing professional development to staff responsible for the implementation of the Abington Educator Evaluation System, so making sure that our evaluators really have a clear understanding of expectations of that process, and then develop and implement a professional development program that supports a focused, district-wide commitment to effective instruction and high expectations for all students. So really looking at universal design, tying in rigor, really linking it also to that district review.
Question? What's the difference between bullet 1 and bullet 3?
Well, in terms of proficient, sufficient, provide sufficient resources, that's key.
Right.
And then develop and implement a professional development program. Everything is based on how much money is there to provide, because, we do have grants, we have, budget, but in terms of being able to provide effective instruction and high expectation, also, student expectation, it comes at a cost for sending people out, having people come in. And then also, every time that a teacher is out, it's substitute costs, or if they're working together, that we bring teams together, it's still substitute costs. So you really have to look at the sufficient resources to plan, develop, all of that, and then also looking at the kind of programming. And of course, we have to prioritize looking at, the mandates from the state, and then, like Mike Shackelford, the state's not telling us we have to do anything with him. We're choosing to say, this is something that links nicely to all of our audits that we received some feedback on, and also what Massachusetts is focusing on. But it's also additional costs, it's additional time, and so we have to always analyze that.
Okay.
Student support, conduct a comprehensive review of the response to intervention program, examining and implementing changes to the existing structure in order to support the high-need subgroups and students with academic, emotional, and behavioral challenges. And then provide programs that ensure that students who are suspended or expelled from school continue to have an opportunity to make academic progress through educational services. Paul?
That's the second bullet is chapter 222, right?
Correct.
And provide programs. We already have programs in place, right?
Well, we have,
For chapter 222?
Yes.
Okay.
that's answered.
Yes.
Okay, curriculum and instruction. Continue the integration of the Common Core state standards into the district curriculum guides. Ensure that curriculum includes the necessary components to provide teachers with a clear understanding of the teaching, learning, and assessment that is expected to occur in each content, discipline, and classroom. Continue to ensure sufficient rigor and challenge in all levels of instruction, and ensure a common understanding of high-quality, evidence-based instruction, and establish a system for monitoring instructional practices. I had 2 more bullets on the next page. This is a meaty one. Conduct a review of the vertical and horizontal curriculum alignment in all grade levels and content areas, and implement organizational systems to continue to monitor such alignment over time. And then develop and maintain the use of formative and summative student assessment data for the purposes of communicating progress and areas of improvement, as well as informing classroom instruction. So there's a lot here, but this is, a lot of these bullets are things that we're going to be focusing on for many years, but starting the process.
Can I go back to my yes, because I don't want us to come off as, too short an answer on it, about the student services for students that are suspended or expelled?
Well, if you want to go on, that's fine.
I just want to make sure
Yes, it's fine with me,
okay.
But if you wanted to,
No, I just don't want it, I don't want it to be, so I'll just do it very quickly, just in case. So we're responsible for the educational program, they're suspended or expelled, during that absence from school, whether it's online services, provide tutoring support, so they continue at home, all the way up to the most supportive setting that would be required based on a student's need that could include an out-of-district placement.
okay.
You must have a question about curriculum instruction.
What is that supposed to mean? The Common Core state standards, the integration, how long has that been going on for?
Which one? Oh, the Common Core?
Yeah.
Well, it's been going on, but honestly, it will be going on for probably another 3 to 5 years in terms of just, aligning. And, I will say that this is an area that, continues to be a concern in terms of making sure that all content areas are using Common Core state standards. And so with that is making sure that departments and people have everything aligned. And that is an area that has been shortchanged over the years because of, there's not always the time or the money. And so this has been getting done at, common planning times or faculty meetings or in-service times, summer, as best we can. But there's always more time needed and resources needed for this alignment.
So how long? 2010?
Yeah, 4 years in terms of, and then,
The Board of Education of Massachusetts, for our state, put in place. Yeah.
And then just establish a system for monitoring instruction practices. Does that work with the educate evaluation system?
Right.
Okay. And then on the third bullet was implement organizational systems. What is that?
Third bullet under,
On the second page there, yeah. it says
Second
conduct-
page.
Conduct a review of vertical, horizontal.
oh, just the vertical and horizontal components?
No,
Between the grades and across grade
It
levels?
says implement organizational systems to continue to monitor such
Under
alignment. with the-
assessment, the second bullet.
Yeah, is we're trying to do more in terms of our network. So we have a lot on our internal Abington Public Schools network to really look at what's going on within departments and content areas from pre-K all the way through 12. And so really looking at the organizational system to monitor that, in terms of, is everybody sticking with the alignments? We're not having redundancy in terms of second grade covering, or third grade covering the same thing, second grade. So really doing those close monitorings of the curriculum alignments through your vertical and horizontal, teams. So that's something that actually goes on naturally with curriculum alignments, but the monitoring piece is more about making sure that each standard is being covered and met at each given grade level and content area. So, in doing that through, our network with, if you go on our curriculum network, you're able to see, where people are at in terms of their curriculum, their instructional practices, their assessments, and then updating because the state has updated according to the Common Core, and then looking at the crosswalks and looking at the universal design pieces and bringing it all together. And then on top of that, also looking at targeted supports. So you have all of this. What are you then doing for your high achievers, your ELL, your Title I, your special ed, et cetera? So really targeting it more.
So to be able to accomplish this, though, as far as these organizational systems, do we have what we need to accomplish this?
We're using what we have.
Okay.
So we have yet to put forward request for, additional as of right now because we're using the internal network to do that.
You can go to a wealthier system, and I'm not whining, but the level of sophistication around these systems runs the entire spectrum of documenting, doing summer curriculum work on it, mapping with individual teachers and grade levels through common planning time, all the way to all of those things, plus teachers have it on their desktop as a system that's provided from a textbook company that monitors exactly what took place in your classroom that day, so you can map time, your lessons, compared to every other third grade teacher in Abington to see where exactly everybody is, and then your data feeds directly into that. Now, we don't have that level of sophistication. And I'm not
Right.
whining about that, but
And it
that's,
might
there's a whole
have
spectrum
to
of
be
what's
that we
in
would have to request that in the future.
Okay.
But right now, we're doing with what we have with the internal network that we have, knowing that we have a new building going online, and with that, new technologies and hopefully more capacity and things of that sort. But that's where we're at right now. We think that
Okay.
that's, why ask for new when we know that we're going to be shutting down our certain systems or schools and then going into the new school? You know what I mean?
Okay.
We're kind of also in that, really analyzing, is it something that we want to request, or is it something we can wait for that'll come with the new building?
It's not the best we have, but you make it work.
Correct. That's a great way of putting it. I think that everyone in Abington does extremely well on, it's not the best, but we make it work.
And you
We
need,
could always be better.
and you need dedicated people to make it work.
Precisely. Good points. All right, assessment. So transition from the Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment System to the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers, as determined by the Massachusetts Board of Education. As you are aware, there will be a vote taken by the Massachusetts Board of Education in the fall and that will determine whether Massachusetts will move from the MCAS current system to the PARC new system. We have had pilot years that we have done some PARC. This is not a year that we have chosen to pilot. However, this is going to be, if voted in, is going to be another huge undertaking for our staff, our students, and the technology work that'll also need to go into that area. Implement a system of formative and summative assessments to provide teachers and administrators with the data needed to make sound instructional decisions. And then through data analysis, provide teachers with the support and resources needed to develop their data analysis skills. So those are the big areas. Data analysis is a huge change, in terms of course, teachers have always been analyzing data over the course of years, looking at tests, assessments, informal, formal within their classrooms, but there's just more and more and more data and more analysis. And so providing them with the skills to really analyze all of the tests, what that means, and then where the areas of focus need to be is something that takes time as well. Because many of our teachers, did not go to school and take courses all in data. And so you're providing that embedded into what we're doing now.
That first one, as far as the transition from MCAS to PARC, so if the Board of Education decides that, and the Gates Foundation decides that we need to go with PARC, do we have any say in that as a local community?
No.
We just have to go with it.
Right.
And any idea, so, all right, I'll just leave it at that.
I guess if I could, yeah, the answer is no. Technically, there is representation on the Board of Ed. It's a representative body, so they are a public body, so you have a voice by being able to, talk to as a citizen in Massachusetts, you can approach the Board of Ed. So, but no, this, in terms of the local control, no.
Right. I do think, though, that this is a big one, and that there has been a lot of pushback already over the last few years regarding this, and there have been states, throughout the United States that have opted out of PARC for a variety of reasons, as you've probably read in the papers, et cetera. But in terms of just recently, you may be aware or not, in terms of the Business Alliance Group has
It's under informational.
Great, so you
Let me
probably read
reference
it.
No, go.
Oh, yeah, no, I saw that.
So in the packet, just to add, I don't want to, in the packet, I included the press release from the Business Alliance, so the school committee members know there is about 40 pages of other information, and so that's under informational. It doesn't, but want to continue to provide people with information about PARC and MCAS and what's out there. That's what that is.
And I do think that that's the movement that you're going to see now in the coming months leading up to the board decision, is that you're going to see the factions of groups that are going to be supporting PARC.
Right.
And the Business Alliance is one powerful group.
Right.
The Commissioner of Ed, who's on the PARC committee, is another powerful. But you also have other variables going on as new governor, Secretary of Education changes, MTA president has changed. So I do think that within the next 6 months, you are going to see a lively debate on this topic.
So, to be fair and balanced, because that Mass Business Alliance for Education, I mean, it's got a huge slant to it. I mean, if you read that, I mean, it's troubling to sit there and say, geez, what have we been doing with MCAS all these years?
Right.
Basically, we're sending 50% of our high school seniors off to college, and they can't do basic things
Right.
because of MCAS. So you need to go with PARC. I mean, and this press release is on top of the report that they issued a year ago about employers and, it's like, come on, it's just a.
This is my own opinion, and I always try to state the difference between what I feel are facts and opinion. This is my opinion, is you've got two sides weighing in on this issue, trying to scare everybody in the middle to their side, which is unfortunately, again, my opinion, what American politics has turned into sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, So, but can I just, why did we get this, Mass Business Alliance for Education? Like, how come,
Because it was out there, and it's really informational, and I'm going to continue to put informational items in here about Park and MCAS.
yeah.
Just in an effort to keep the.
But it isn't, let me just make sure, if someone were to pick up our board package, this isn't in here because we have we're thinking of more highly of Park than MCAS. It's just for informational purposes. Because you read this, and to me, it is very troubling.
It was in the news, people were talking about it, so I put it in the packet so the committee was informed.
Also, the committee members asked for information about
Right.
Common Core, Park, and MCAS, so we've been getting articles here and there along the way.
Right, but this is really to me, has a
That's
huge
powerful-
slant.
It's a powerful,
I mean, because when they issued their report, was it last March? And, which was funded by the Barr Foundation, Nellie Mae Foundation, Gates Foundation. And it was at the request of DESI in Mitchell Chester. But one of the things that really troubled me the most was they said the MCAS tests, quote unquote, were not designed to measure higher order thinking and were largely based on lower level material, per the report. In contrast, Park content is considered to be of higher order. Wow. So what have we been doing for the last 17 years? I mean, it's just when you, that's why, but the only reason I'm saying this is because, we have had, visitors and guests talk about Park and MCAS, but we got this just for informational purposes.
I'm not trying to
Just
sneak one by
right,
anybody.
Right.
We
Okay.
don't have a say in it anyway,
Which, yeah.
so.
Yes, Leslie?
So if they vote for Park,
Yes.
when does that move over to us where we're providing that test for our children? And are we ready to provide that test for our children?
That's a great question.
Yeah, it would immediately,
For
so,
the fall, this next upcoming school year?
right, if determined, they'll give you actually a timeline. So, and then they'll be looking at, paper pencil, is it going to be usage of technology? When we did go through the pilot in different schools, there was a lot of problems with the technology
right.
components, not necessarily on our end, but on their end. So that was really troubling. There's a lot of work that will need to go into that because it's a whole, if we did do the technology per se first, is a lot of learning how to take the test using the technology. I've done the tutorial myself, and it's really about, making sure kids know how to cut and paste, making sure that they're, taking the proper evidence and backing it up. However, you can't always move from, one page to the other page, so if they don't cut and paste it the right way. I mean, there are those kinds of nuances.
Right, where those, those children would need to know how to even do that.
Right. And Brockton, actually, right nearby, I just went to a training over there, and, it was, it's such a larger system. They have a lot more in terms of grants, and so they're able to provide, a lot in terms of the technology. And so they have employees that only are hired to focus on park preparation. And so, walking through them, they were able to navigate, for us as the educators, don't do this, because the kid will lose their entire answer. So you have to train the children on making sure that you save it before you click over to the next question.
Right.
So it's those little dynamics. But what we would have to do in terms of the rollout, if the board makes the decision, is basic. Like, everybody would need to take the tutorial and go through that whole process. Make sure, of course, the Common Core standards are being covered, and we're currently working on all of that. But also making sure that our kids are ready for the different type of questions that will be expected of them. So where people have said that they see the biggest difference, especially my colleagues that have been doing the park pilot all along, have said that, basically the hugest difference between what they're seeing with the MCAS and park is that it's really boomeranged education into the 21st century through the usage of technology. But they do give you a caveat of using the paper pencil and in order to take the test, because, especially for someone like us, it would take a tremendous amount of money to make sure that we can provide that for all kids all at once.
Right.
But then knowing that we also have a new building coming with all the technology that will come with that, where are we going to spend the money?
But it's also people. I mean, it's also
Staffing.
not just providing
Right.
the technology, but also truly integrating that into daily instruction, teaching and learning, so that it's not just about taking the test using a piece of
Right.
technology. So it's a cost of not only the hardware, but also people.
Because we could buy Chromebooks for a couple $100 and be able to take the test, but what happens to those Chromebooks and their use throughout the school year? We want to buy the right technology for teaching and learning for all things that take place in the classroom, so that money is maximized, not just buying a tablet so you can take a test.
And that the students know how to use it.
Right, in other areas as well, right.
Yeah, for the test, but also for instruction.
Because if the state goes in this direction, there's a bigger purpose than just being able to pass the PARCC test. We want students to be able to use technology with some competence, and teachers to be able to use it effectively to teach. So,
Yeah, and there's a lot that can happen between now and then, and I think what's really was smart of Abington was to let the state figure out where you want to go
Right.
before we all jump on board and try to do it all without knowing what does the board plan to do.
Right.
And so, it's hard because we're going to be waiting on their decision, which can come anytime between September to December next year. And then it'll be then determined, when everything has to take place. So it's not going to be an easy rollout based on all my colleagues that are going through it, that have opted in this year. But it's doable. We get through every initiative, whether it's, difficult or not. So I'll keep you posted on that.
Historically, the same nightmares appeared when MCAS was first rolled out.
Right.
It took us a couple of years to figure out how to teach the kids to handle the format of the test in itself, regardless of what the questions were. And I think anytime you change a big assessment like that, there's a learning curve.
and just my opinion, again, I think it's a coin toss as to whether or not Massachusetts administers one test or the other. I don't know what the Board of Ed might not go the route of PARCC. We don't know that they are until they do. We don't have the resources to jump in and jump out, and it's not fair to our kids or our teachers.
But based on this article here, I mean, the MCAS hasn't been a disservice to our children, the way they describe it here.
Yeah,
Has
based
it?
on that one article.
Somehow we
Right, based on-
became, through the MCAS test, and it's not solely through the MCAS test, but it helped get there, the number one state in the entire nation, compared against our state against other industrialized nations. As a nation, we do very well internationally in terms of the education we provide.
Massachusetts, the Commonwealth.
Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Commonwealth, yep.
I think it's a good example of politics. Here we go. Before the decision has to be made in the fall, you're going to see all different factions of people and groups, and people with grant money
Right.
and everything else that are going to, it's a power play. And so, again, I do have to say that I think it was smart on Abington's part to, let's wait and see what the Massachusetts Board of Ed decides to do. So. And then the last is financial and asset management, is provide a comprehensive budget that provides clear documentation and accounting procedures that integrate the district-level financial information of each school and program. And so everybody knows how much time has gone into, every year, there's a comprehensive budget. And then the budget committee with Paul and Mike also this year. And then,
Can I just make one recommendation on that? Because we've got one too many provides in there. It says provides a comprehensive, that provides. We just say provide a comprehensive budget that integrates the district level financial information. Because, I think it's just assumed it's always going to be clear. It's going to be based on accounting procedures.
so say that again, provide a comprehensive budget that integrates clear
No, that integrates the district level. So the only thing is you
Oh, okay, just
eliminate
take out.
that through procedures.
Sure. Sure. Everybody okay with that?
Not looking for approval,
Appreciate it.
just,
This is just
I'm glad
informational,
people
but
do that.
I'd be happy to make those changes, whatever makes it more clear and concise for people. And, you know, we live it, so it's nice to have the lens of other people taking a look at it. So thank you.
Okay, next we have the report of the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Finance.
Another building committee update. We continue to be working very hard and long hours with the professional team around the design of the building. As I mentioned last time, the design documents were submitted to the School Building Authority, and since then, the design team has received a number of comments back from them and things that they would like to see in the next submittal, which is the 60% construction document. So between now and 60%, which is in a couple of weeks, couple of months, we'll continue to meet with the design team as a building committee, as a building committee subcommittee, and also in what we're calling educational programming meetings, which I've reported on before, meeting with staff and administration at the various levels, tweaking the design of the interior of the building. And so those meetings, we're actually having another set of those in a few weeks. We're still on track for complete bid documents to be ready in the early fall, to go out to bid in the early fall, to have a shovel in the ground, hopefully without 100 inches of snow in June.
yeah, we don't want that.
You know, it's throughout this whole process, and it is a long process, obviously, before we put shovels in the ground. So there are things that throughout the past year and between now and when the construction documents are done, that take time and meetings and discussions, and we're deep into those, and the staff and the community have, the building committee have put a lot of time and effort into those meetings. Okay, do you want to add anything to?
No, it pretty much covers it. You do spend a lot of time. Spend a lot of time together.
Yes. But it's very, I mean, it obviously is very exciting.
It's really interesting and exciting.
Yeah. And I also just need to acknowledge Leo Provost and the Treasurer's Office. I've been working with him over the last few days regarding cash flow and borrowing and you know, where we need to be at different milestones in the next year around borrowing. So I just wanted to thank you.
You might want to also thank Brian and Lance and Jason. I saw them on the roofs today.
I'm getting to that,
Boy, oh boy,
under informational.
they are doing some great work.
Yep. You're right.
So you brought up the inches of snow, made me think of it.
So there's no motion needed there.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Under new business and establishing of the next school committee meeting date, Tuesday, March 24th, at 7 PM here.
Under informational. So, just, we haven't finished my evaluation from the last round, but I want to be ready with the next round in a timely fashion. So I've included a draft that incorporated what I read in some of those initial comments and reads from the input from this year. And so over the next couple of weeks, really, I'm encouraging or inviting people to call, to meet with me, to email me, to offer more suggestions, because, you know, this is a draft, and so I'm looking for your input so that when it comes before the committee, it's ready to go and we're able to move forward on it. Also, under informational, as we had mentioned earlier, there was that piece from the Business Alliance. We have, and we talked about that. Also, unless people have questions, initial questions about that draft, I don't want to rush too quickly through it. So we also have from Mike Dorado, our art director. I want to read this to you to recognize these students for their accomplishments. Mike sends, this is more for the benefit of the people in cable rather than you, because I hate reading to you, but I'm pleased to share, this is from Mike Dorado to me. I want to include it here. I'm pleased to share with you the recent successes of our students in the Boston Globe Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, an annual art competition for students grades 7 through 12 in all public and private parochial schools in the state. The program recognizes outstanding achievement of art students and encourages them to pursue further study in visual arts. Every year, thousands of pieces of art are submitted in different categories, including architecture, comic art, ceramics and glass, digital art, design, drawing, fashion, film, and animation, jewelry, mixed media, painting, photography, printmaking, sculpture, video games, and art portfolios. There were over 400 participating schools, and the winners at Abington High School are George Cellini, honorable mention sculpture, Matt Halloran, gold key painting, Christina Howe, silver key painting, Taylor Johnson, gold key painting, Sarah McLeod, honorable mention portfolio, Sarah McLeod, silver key sculpture, Caitlin Malloy, silver key mixed media, Caitlin Shannon, honorable mention digital art. The winners from the Frollo Middle School are Julia Doe, honorable mention drawing, Julia Doe, honorable mention drawing and illustration, Abby Edwards, honorable mention drawing. The gold key artworks will be on display at the 808 Gallery at BU from March 7th to March 15th. The annual award ceremony for the gold key and silver key winners will be held on March 7th at the Museum of Fine Arts. The gold key winning artwork and portfolios will be judged again in New York for additional honors with other work from around the country in the National Scholastic Art Awards this spring. So just wanted to make sure we recognize that.
Now, will we have any of this work on the website? Do we have pictures or anything that we could post out on the website?
We could work to do that.
Don't they usually have them up at the library
Right.
afterwards?
Yep, they'll be on display at the library. We'll have an award, there'll be an art exhibit, an opening, a showing at the Abington Library when these pieces come back also. So
Did not know there was successes in video games. Is that playing video games or?
I don't know, but I know that,
It's creating.
I know that
I think it's
it's
creating.
a billion-dollar operation in America right now in terms of entertainment, so.
Peter, isn't the art show for all of the grades now coming up this month at the library, too?
I know it's soon,
I think it's the whole month of March, because I'm actually
Okay.
meeting her tomorrow.
Well, then-
Thursday afternoon to help put
Then-
up some of the artwork.
okay. I don't know exactly what the dates are, but if you,
I heard it was the
You're
whole month,
working on
but
it.
I
If
might
you-
not be
Yep.
100% sure. But I do know some of the artwork from the other students are being put up in the library for the whole month.
the next item of information I just wanted to point out, is there's been a lot of talk about snow days. So, under informational, Paul had suggested that we publish and put together just to keep things, because we have systems that start after Labor Day, and they have longer holidays than we have had, so they've been closed. I mean, poor, the poor students in Braintree are facing really a corner. They're backed in a corner about school days and getting the 180 days completed. That's really not the case for us in Abington, and this chart shows really where we are as of February 20, as of today, in terms of cancellations, February 24th. This notes the 23rd, because, but it hasn't changed. And you can see that if we do not have additional snow days, the recommendation would be that we would be out of school if we just add a day at the end of the year on the 19th. Now, it's early. I wish I could make that recommendation to you now. I really hope this is going to be the recommendation I'm going to make to you, but that's where we stand right now if we don't have additional school days in terms of my recommendation. The other piece Dimna mentioned, which I need to mention, is You know, a lot of work has been done in Abington on roofs, and we're very, very fortunate that we work with Jason Lynn and Lance Hammond and our custodial crews who are clearing walkways and walking the perimeters of buildings to make sure that the entrances don't have overhangs of ice and snow, because you clear them, and 12 hours later, the icicles form again, and that could impact student safety with falling ice. But just the weight loads on our roofs, I want to thank Marshall Adams for working with us, our town building inspector, because we've been very careful and methodical about looking at structures and the way each individual roof has a load and as is engineered. I am not an engineer, but Marshall Adams is our building inspector, and he's worked very closely with Jason and Lance. Even the fire department that lent us their bucket trucks to relieve some of those icing conditions over entranceways. People are up in those so that the ice doesn't fall on people. And so we've taken the approach that we've increased the temperatures to the daytime temperature in our buildings, and over the vacation period opened attic doors, and that's melted quite a bit of snow, making sure that the roof drains are cleared. I know in other systems, you know, that may cost us more money in heating, but it creates a safer environment for our students, and it's actually saves money from clearing roofs of snow, and so far that's worked because we've reduced the snowpack on average by about a foot in our buildings and in terms of what's on our roofs. But that's a daily thing. There are inspections of the interiors of attic spaces and things like that, and then every time it snows or we get these drifting of snow, then there's an inspection that goes on top of the roof to make sure that we're within what each type of roof construction can support in terms of snow loads. There are no certainties with any of these, but that's the work that's being done behind the scenes. And so I just want to, as Dimna mentioned, I want to thank all of those people. Additional to that, though, the highway department, nobody can look at 9 feet of snow and say, oh, this is clean enough. That doesn't happen. But to the extent that it can be cleaned by the resources that Abington has and the work that's been done by the highway department and people that they work with, I just can't thank them enough for the work that they've done. We drive around quite a bit. We look at areas, and there's always a dangerous area. It's just a question of where do you get on that list, and what do you anticipate the most dangerous areas are, and that's done through with the fire department, the police department, the highway department, the school department, and it's the highway department that gets those that work done. So they've helped us quite a bit. And again, nobody's going to look at 9 feet of snow out the window and say that I think it's safe, or it couldn't be done better, because there's always room. If we somehow melted all the snow and removed it from the town of Abington, that'd be the best condition. But that's not going to happen until, I hope sooner, sometime in March. But, so, I need to ask parents to please continue to be aware of their children's route to bus stops and school, because sidewalk conditions change continually, even if it doesn't snow. Somebody plows their driveway and blocks a sidewalk, and there is no way to anticipate which sidewalks, which driveways could create an impasse for students to force them in the road. And so if the students are in the road, we don't want them there. We need to ask parents to please take responsibility for that, so that they know that whatever path their child is taking to school, or a bus stop is a safe one.
How are the bus drivers finding things?
We've had buses get stuck. We've had a pinching where an SUV tried to get by a bus and it scraped against the side of it. Fortunately, those are the problems we've had to date, and so it's been difficult for our buses. But again, I feel fortunate to tell you that that's so far the worst of it, because obviously it could get far worse.
Can I add one other person, only because I see her every morning?
Yeah.
You know,
Please do.
you know who I'm gonna.
Please do.
Yeah.
Our crossing guard, Betty McDonald. She's at the corner of Chestnut and 139.
Every day.
Especially yesterday and today, which was ridiculously cold.
It's, yes, and it's one of those situations that, years ago, there were lots of crossing guards in Abington. We're down to one crossing guard at 139 Chestnut. She's there to cross students on days like yesterday and today. There were none the last 2 days, but there's a crossing guard there. The crossing guard's going to be there. So I want to remind parents of that if they were sending their kids. But the crosswalks are the sidewalks are difficult. But yes, Betty McDonald is out there every morning, and thank you for.
And you couldn't have a better person
No.
watching the safety of kids at that spot, any spot.
I actually had a conversation with her today, that when it's -7 degrees, that she can wait in her car until she sees a student, and she says she's not going to do that because her job is to be at the corner, so I appreciate that also.
So that's all I have.
Can I just ask, as far as, we still have a Europe trip that's coming up?
France. Yep.
France, yeah. Is there any, how do we look at, and I'm not asking for it tonight, maybe just an update at the next meeting as far as the planning goes for that, and how we look at what events are happening in the world and how we take into consideration the security of our, safety of our children.
We actually have, because I have a senior that's going, as well as Sam's going, right? It's going to be an informational meeting on Tuesday night for the parents of the
Okay.
kids that are going. And I would expect at that point that they'll also, they did let us know today that it was Delta Airlines that, so that parents can actually go onto that website, look at the language, language, baggage requirements, things like that. But it's been coming out a little bit piecemeal. I'm thinking that next week's meeting's going to be.
So can we get Sam on the agenda for the next meeting, and he can give us an update?
Yeah, we'll do that.
But I want him wearing a beret.
That'd be great. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Like the EF tour?
Yeah,
That'd be
thank you.
No pressure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not at all, Sam.
Put it on your resume.
Yeah. It's exciting. It's how many, I forget how many weeks now.
25, I think.
Yeah,
25 kids are going.
25 kids, but how
10
much
days.
time do we have? So it's,
I think we're leaving Friday. Friday before vacation and coming
Right.
home Sunday,
right.
the last day of vacation.
Nice.
So about a month and a half away, right, from going.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when's your last day of school?
For vacation.
yeah. May 29th.
The seniors make out on this.
Exactly,
Yes.
yeah.
Good
We
year
have
to
to
be a
make up
senior.
their snow days.
It's nice to own a record for something, class of 2015.
So, actually, while we're talking about the snow, if I could just add one quick thing, I did bring this. So there is, the state's allowing us to push back MCAS testing and extensions. So we're planning, provide an extension in terms of when we're offering the MCAS test. We're planning on doing that. That's our option, we're allowed to do that. It provides a little less stress for, because there's teachers that missed a little more than a week of instructional time that are going to want to get things done. They've got plans, it's all calendared and scheduled out, so so that stress translates into less stress for the students in terms of how the tests are rolled out and accommodating them, and so we're going to be doing that. Based on grade level, in the coming days, information will be given to parents in terms of exactly how that schedule has been extended for, by grade level, by test, because there's so many different subject areas, so many different grade levels, and then even within subject areas, there's, like for ELA, there's writing composition, and then there's the reading test, and so that'll all be spelled out for people in the coming days. So.
Just while we're on the subject of snow days, not to leave Mr. Schaefer and his team in office. I mean, I know that just to have a decision whether there's school or not to have school, it's a big decision, whether you're up looking at weather reports at 3 in the morning, and we thank you for
Well, thanks. It's actually only 4:30 in the morning,
4:30 in the morning.
so thanks.
we don't have to sit and listen for WBZ anymore now with all the texting and the
Right.
new way to find out, so.
So
Thank you to you as well.
Thanks.
So, there's nothing else tonight. So looking to make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting,
Make that motion?
9:10, all in favor? Thank you.
Great.
Before everyone goes, I'll make you up a packet. All right with it? You don't need it?
They're losing 1-0, right?
Sorry.